Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. This one is all about presentation skills, and trust me, by the end of it, you feel much more equipped to deliver really engaging and impactful presentations. Our mission today is to equip you with the tools and insights needed to truly make every word count. We're drawing from a comprehensive guide, some great expert YouTube insights, and, well, a whole lot of practical tips.
Yeah, and it's a deep dive that feels, more crucial than ever these days. In our fast-paced world, simply having the knowledge isn't really enough anymore, is it? Being able to convey it effectively, to genuinely connect with and influence your audience, that's like a superpower. We want to help you master that skill.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
Starting at the beginning, before you even think about slides or crafting that perfect story, it sounds like it's fundamentally about understanding who you're actually talking to. Our sources really emphasize something called a needs analysis. So for us as presenters, what's the core idea behind that?
Right. Think of a needs analysis as your diagnostic tool. It's fundamental. Instead of just jumping in and delivering what you know or what you think they need, it forces you to uncover what your audience truly needs. Are they struggling with a specific task? Is there maybe a gap between how they perform something and how an expert does it?
So finding the real problem, not just the symptoms.
Exactly. It's about systematically identifying their specific problem, looking at what tasks experts already perform well, and pinpointing any performance gaps. This kind of, let's say, forensic look helps you tailor your message so precisely, it feels like you're speaking directly to their problem. It ensures every single learning objective actually hits home.
That makes a lot of sense. It really shifts the focus, doesn't it? From what I want to say to what you, the audience, actually need to hear.
Right.
There's a great example of this in the source material with Ben and Audrey. How did they put this kind of strategic thinking into, practical action?
Yeah, that's a good case study. They faced a pretty common scenario. Staff were really struggling with a new medical record system even after they'd done the online tutorials. So Audrey reported this to Ben, her manager. And instead of just scheduling some generic training session, Ben, quite rightly, insisted on doing that needs analysis first.
So they didn't just jump to a solution.
No, exactly. They dug deep. They used questions to pinpoint the specific issues, identify the expert tasks involved, and figure out where those performance gaps really lay. It wasn't about trying to cover absolutely everything in the new system. It was about targeting specific critical tasks, like resolve customer complaints using that new system.
Got it. Laser focus.
Precisely. And the result. A perfectly tailored training session that got the office fully prepared just in time for the system's rollout. It really highlights how that targeted preparation can make all the difference.
What a, profound impact that intentional preparation can have. It's not just ticking a box.
Yeah.
So, okay, once you know your audience inside and out, how do you then structure your message? How do you make sure it actually lands and resonates with them?
Well, after that needs analysis, it's all about crafting a really clear content outline. You logically group those tasks and subtasks you identified under main headings. Maybe it's handling an incoming call or documenting call resolution, whatever fits your topic. And beyond the core content, you always need to frame it properly. So a strong introduction, very clear objectives up front, a concise wrap up at the end, and some form of evaluation.
And the writing itself. Any tips there?
Oh, absolutely. When you're actually writing the content, be, almost brutal with brevity. Aim for concise sentences, maybe under 20 words if you can. Stick to one main thought per sentence. Use simple, familiar words. Avoid jargon where possible, or if you have to use a key term, define it immediately.
I really appreciate that advice. It ties in nicely with that idea I've heard. Write for the ear, not for the eyes, when you're editing your script.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about how it sounds when spoken, not just how it looks on the page. Very different things.
Okay, moving on. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The introduction. We're often told you have mere seconds, literally seconds, to grab attention. Is that really true? Or is it maybe more of an exaggeration to just push us to make a good first impression?
Oh, it's absolutely true. That 30-second rule, maybe stretching up to 60 seconds, it's critical. Think about it. Your audience is constantly bombarded with information. They're checking phones, maybe talking amongst themselves before you start. It is absolutely your job as the speaker to earn their attention. It's not their job to just dutifully give it to you.
Right, the onus is on the presenter.
Exactly. And unfortunately, so many presentations begin so blandly, dull as dishwater, as they say. Audiences can disengage almost immediately. You have to actively make them sit up and listen from the word go.
So knowing that pressure, what are the common missteps? The things that instantly lose an audience before you even get to your main points?
Well, the biggest pitfall probably is starting with what we often call housekeeping or just generic small talk. Things like discussing fire exits, thanking 50 different people for coming, asking about their journey. These things signal that the real content hasn't actually begun yet.
Ah, so it lowers the energy right away.
It does. Ideally, you delegate those tasks,
Hmm.
maybe have someone else announce them or save them for a less critical moment later on.
Hmm.
Another major mistake is leading with information the audience definitely already knows. You need to surprise them, engage them from the outset, not bore them with stuff they already understand.
Okay, avoid the boring bits up front. So if we dodge those pitfalls, how do we start strong? What are the pro moves, the truly impactful opening techniques that hook an audience right from the first few moments?
There are several really powerful techniques you can use to create that immediate engagement. One incredibly simple yet surprisingly powerful technique is just take a moment. Before you utter a single word, breathe and pause.
Let's pause.
Just pause. It sets a tone. It signals you're in control, collected. It lets the audience settle and focus on you. Then, once you have their attention, immediately focus on the why over the what. Instead of saying, today I'm going to talk about X, tell your audience why X is relevant and important specifically to them.
Ah, making it about them immediately. That definitely changes the dynamic, doesn't it? From a passive lecture to something potentially valuable for me.
Exactly. It makes it personal. Another highly effective method is using a personal anecdote or storytelling. Share a short, interesting personal story. Maybe it's a work conversation you had, a holiday experience, a problem you discovered, an idea that struck you. The key is keep it brief, under 60 seconds ideally, make it punchy, and ensure it's directly connected to your presentation's main goal or message.
And you have to make that connection explicit.
Yes, absolutely. Always explain, why am I telling you this story before you clearly link it to your objective? You could start with something like, 3 months ago, I had this meeting with my boss, or about a year ago, I discovered a major problem in our marketing strategy. It draws people in.
Okay, stories are powerful. What else?
Beyond stories, rhetorical questions are excellent. They make your audience think without expecting an immediate verbal answer. Ask something thought-provoking like, what's the biggest problem that family-run businesses face today? And then, crucially, pause for a couple of seconds. Let it sink in.
That pause again, it seems really important.
It is. It gives them time to internalize the question and start engaging mentally. This technique makes a point, and like anecdotes, it must directly tie into your objective. But a word of caution here. Our source material mentions Marco, who found that when his first rhetorical question kind of fell flat, switching to a clear, open question like, if you were a customer calling for the first time, what would you want most? Actually succeeded in drawing the audience in. So you need to read the room a bit too.
Interesting. So be ready to adapt. What other tools are in the intro toolkit?
Right. Next, you could consider sharing an amazing, surprising, or even shocking fact or statistic. This needs to be something your audience probably doesn't already know, directly linked to your aim, and genuinely impactful. For instance, in the last 12 months, employee turnover in our sector has increased by 22%. And again, that brief pause after stating it really amplifies the effect, makes people go, wow.
Okay, a strong stat. Makes sense.
You can also start with a powerful quote, a relevant and meaningful quote, maybe like George Bernard Shaw's, the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's taken place. Okay. A good quote provides an anchor point. It contextualizes your topic, and it can even borrow a bit of credibility from the person you're quoting.
Adds a bit of weight. I like that.
Then, for a more sensory opening, you can use imagery or video. Simply starting with the word imagine prompts your audience's visualization and engages their emotions. Like, imagine you're in a shop and the assistant looks completely bored and miserable. It puts them right in the scene. Or you could direct their attention to a really compelling image or a short video clip on screen that sets the scene perfectly.
And finally, the risky one, humor.
Yes, humor or a joke. It is a high-risk strategy, no doubt. But if you can pull it off well, make it genuinely funny, and do it within that first 60 seconds, it builds tremendous rapport. Remember Juan from the case studies? He felt he wasn't great at telling verbal jokes, so he used newspaper headlines as a kind of visual joke to open his presentation. And it worked. It engaged his audience successfully.
It's really clear then that each of these techniques, whether it's a story, a question, a stat, or even a joke, is designed to create that immediate aha or moment for the listener. It's about drawing them in personally or intellectually.
Absolutely. It's all about earning that attention right from the start. And a key tip here, whichever opening technique you choose, that anecdote, that surprising fact, the rhetorical question, the imagined situation, try to refer back to it at important points throughout your presentation.
Ah, create a thread.
Exactly. It creates a common thread, a through line, and it really helps maintain your audience's interest and reinforces your message.
Okay, so we've prepped meticulously. We've crafted a killer intro that's got everyone hooked. Now, what does this all mean for how we actually say things, how we use our voice, our body language?
Right. Let's get into the delivery itself, starting with verbal communication. It's really crucial to understand the difference between just hearing and actually listening. Hearing is passive, right? It's just sound waves hitting your eardrum. But listening is a conscious choice. It requires concentration for your brain to actually process the meaning. And listening is what leads to learning.
And our brains work faster than speech, don't they?
They do. Our brains can think much faster than we typically speak, which leaves plenty of mental bandwidth for distraction if you're not actively engaging your audience and if they're not actively listening.
So how do we encourage that active listening?
Well, one key verbal skill is asking questions. We often think of them just for the Q&A at the end, but they're incredibly versatile tools throughout the presentation. You've got open questions. These stimulate thinking and discussion. They invite opinions or feelings, thinking why, what, or how. Like, describe the style of the leader you observed in that meeting scenario.
It's them reflecting.
Exactly. Then there are clarifying questions. These help remove ambiguity, get more detail. For instance, you mentioned you preferred apples over oranges. Could you tell me a bit more about why that is? And finally, closed questions. These usually require just a one-word answer, maybe a yes or no or a specific fact. They're great for getting quick facts or maintaining control, like who will lead the project meeting next week.
And the questions themselves need care.
Definitely. Your questions should always be clear, concise, relevant to the topic, and ideally reasonably challenging but fair. You can direct them to specific individuals, maybe to stimulate someone who seems quiet, or to tap into an expert in the room. Or you can pose them to the whole group to encourage broader participation and allow for voluntary responses. Remember Marco. He successfully drew his group into a thoughtful discussion with that well-phrased, open-ended question after his initial rhetorical one didn't quite land as expected.
That's a really powerful way to shift a standard lecture into something much more interactive, isn't it? Keeps the audience engaged throughout, not just passively receiving.
Absolutely. It makes it a shared experience. And then linked to this is communicating with power through your voice. It's actually quite remarkable how much impact your voice alone has, probably far more than most people realize. The way you say things, your vocal tone and quality, accounts for a huge chunk. Some studies say up to 38% of your message's effectiveness.
Wow, 38%. That's significant.
It is, so you need to consciously control your pitch. Try speaking from your diaphragm. It gives your voice resonance and helps avoid those high-pitched, nervous sounds. Volume should also come from the diaphragm, not strained from your throat. And consciously add emotion and warmth to your voice. Often, just making an effort to smile genuinely as you speak can make a huge difference to your tone. Using those strong openers we talked about, like a dramatic story or a rhetorical question, also helps you take command with your voice right from the beginning.
Okay, voice matters a lot. But beyond the words we speak and how we say them, our bodies are always communicating too, aren't they? What about all the nonverbal stuff?
You've hit on a really critical point there. Nonverbal communication is, in fact, often cited as the single most powerful form. Some research suggests it accounts for as much as 55% of your message's effectiveness.
Even more than the voice.
Potentially, yes. And the crucial thing is this. If there's any conflict, any mismatch between your words and your body language, your audience will almost always believe the body language. It dominates how your message is perceived.
So your body language must match your words. No exceptions.
Absolutely essential. Otherwise, you lose credibility instantly. Now, when it comes to specific body language and gestures, there are some generally good principles to follow. Most of your gestures should happen above the waist. Keep your forearms roughly parallel to your waist. Try to keep your hands open rather than clenched fists or pointing fingers. Using both hands together can convey power and emphasis.
What else? Beyond hands.
Other important signals include consistent eye contact. You don't want to stare, but aim for holding contact for maybe 4 to 5 second intervals moving around the room. Good posture is vital. Stand or sit tall. It conveys confidence. And use purposeful body movements. Don't just pace nervously, move with intent, perhaps to emphasize a point or transition to a new section. All these things convey information without you saying a word.
And tone of voice fits in here too, right?
Right.
Even though it's audible.
Yes, absolutely. Tone of voice is often considered part of nonverbal because it conveys emotion and attitude beyond the literal words. As we touched on, your tone needs to be upbeat, warm, controlled, and clear. Some practical tips for achieving that include practicing that diaphragmatic breathing, staying well hydrated, water is key, maintaining good posture, it opens up your airways, consciously smiling, maybe doing some vocal warm-up exercises beforehand, and even recording your voice to hear how you actually sound to others. Some experts even suggest practicing speaking in a slightly lower octave than your normal conversational voice, as it can convey more authority and credibility.
That's interesting, like the case study of Monique.
Exactly like Monique. She was apparently exhausted from travel, but she exemplified this perfectly by consciously using her smile, making direct eye contact, maintaining good posture, and employing powerful gestures. She delivered an energetic and really well-received training session. It just proves that even when you're feeling tired, focusing on your nonverbal cues can effectively carry your message and project energy.
Okay, so we've covered content, intros, verbal, nonverbal.
Yeah.
But what about that feeling, that pit in your stomach? Even seasoned pros get nervous before a presentation. What are the secrets to knocking down those jitters and, well, appearing confident even when you're feeling anything but?
Nerves. Yes, totally normal. Even the most experienced speakers feel them. And nervousness can strike at different times, right at the beginning, sometimes midway through. If you sense the audience is disengaged, or heaven forbid, if your memory suddenly fails you. The good news is there are concrete strategies you can use to manage it effectively. Mental preparation is absolutely key here.
Like psyching yourself up.
Sort of, but more structured. Visualization is a primary tool forming detailed mental images of success. You can practice what's called receptive visualization, where you relax deeply and allow positive insights or feelings to just come to you. Or you can do programmed visualization, where you actively create a detailed mental movie of your desired outcome, see yourself delivering confidently, feel the positive audience reaction, hear the applause. Engage all your senses in this mental rehearsal. Using positive present tense affirmations alongside this can be very powerful too. Things like, I'm calm and confident, or tension flows easily from my body. Repeating these can genuinely change your mindset.
Okay, mental prep. What about physical techniques?
Physical relaxation techniques are also incredibly helpful. Deep breathing exercises are probably the most accessible. Focusing on slow, deep breaths originating from your diaphragm can be done anywhere, anytime to instantly calm your nervous system. Meditation, even short sessions, can help by increasing your self-awareness and helping you focus your thoughts away from anxiety. And then there's progressive muscle relaxation. This involves systematically tensing and then releasing specific muscle groups throughout your body. A great way to become aware of physical tension and consciously let it go, exercising that mind over body control.
And just generally appearing confident. Any tricks?
Well, there are less tricks and more solid preparation habits. Ensure you get good sleep the night before, easier said than done sometimes, but crucial. Practice your presentation with your visuals so the flow is seamless. Always conduct at least one full dress rehearsal, ideally in front of someone. And arrive early at the venue, especially if it's unfamiliar. Give yourself time to settle in, check the tech, get comfortable with the space. Brian's case study is a great example here. He successfully overcame his pre-presentation jitters by combining deep breathing and visualization, which led to a highly successful training and even a follow-up invitation. Preparation builds confidence.
Those are really practical, actionable strategies. It's not just don't be nervous. It's how not to let nerves derail you.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, what about the tools that support our message? Visual aids. From low-tech flip charts to high-tech wizardry. They seem key, but what do we need to know to use them effectively without, overwhelming our audience or ourselves? Visual aids are, well, pretty much indispensable in most presentations today, but you're right. The key is to use them wisely and effectively. Regardless of the specific tool you choose, whether it's trusty old flip charts, ubiquitous PowerPoint presentations, interactive whiteboards, traditional or electronic, or engaging videos and audio, the overarching principles for using them well remain remarkably consistent.
Okay, what are those core principles?
Right. First, and perhaps most importantly, simplicity is paramount. Keep your visuals uncluttered. For things like flip charts or whiteboards, don't cram them full of tiny writing. For PowerPoint, stick to one major concept per slide. Use short phrases or bullet points, not full paragraphs. Keep images and fancy effects to a minimum unless they genuinely add value. The goal is always to support your spoken message, not distract from it or replace it.
Less is more, basically.
Definitely. Second, ensure readability. This sounds obvious, but it's amazing how often it's overlooked. Use clear, simple fonts. Sans serif fonts like Arial or Calibri are usually best for screens. Make sure the font size is large enough for everyone in the room to see effortlessly, even those way at the back. Think 32-point or larger for titles, maybe 24-28 for body text as a rough guide. And choose high contrast color combinations so your text and images really pop. Classic white or yellow text on a dark blue background works well. Avoid combinations that strain the eye, like light yellow text on a white background or busy patterned backgrounds.
Good practical tips there. What else?
Third, prioritize audience engagement. Think about how the visual aid helps them. Flip charts and whiteboards are fantastic for spontaneous interaction, brainstorming, and recording group ideas live. Videos and audio can add dynamic dimensions, illustrate complex processes, or evoke emotion in ways static slides can't. Whatever visual you choose, constantly ask yourself, does this enhance understanding? Does it clarify my point? Or does it just repeat what I'm saying? Make sure it directly relates to your core message and adds real value for the audience.
Okay, support, readability, engagement. Anything else?
Yes, finally, and this is absolutely critical, always have a plan B. Technology can and sometimes will fail you. Projector bulbs blow, laptops crash, markers dry up, internet connections drop, wires get tripped over.
Murphy's Law for presenters.
Pretty much. So, for any visual aid you plan to use, anticipate potential issues. Have backup files of your presentation on a USB stick, maybe in cloud storage too. Consider having printed handouts of key slides or main concepts ready just in case. If you're relying heavily on video or audio, test everything beforehand in the actual room if possible. Have screenshots of key moments from the video as a backup. Be ready to substitute with a live demonstration, a role play, or even just describe the video's content clearly. Remember Jarrett's case study? His video failed, but he brilliantly illustrated his point with a spontaneous role play instead. The audience will be much more forgiving and empathetic if you handle technical hiccups with composure and have a clear fallback plan ready to go.
That's such key advice. Being prepared for failure makes you look even more professional when things go wrong. Like Colin and Elena, right? When the charts were lost, Elena had photos.
Exactly. Or Lisa's Bong Fran, always insisting on backup copies and handouts, which saved Lisa when her slides had issues. Preparation minimizes panic.
It really sounds like the golden rule for visuals is less is often more when it comes to effects and density, and always be prepared for the unexpected tech gremlins.
You've got it. Keep it simple, keep it readable, keep it relevant, and always have that backup plan.
Okay, so we've covered the fundamentals, the delivery, the nerves, the tech. How do we really elevate the experience? How do we, as the source material puts it, pump it up a notch and make a presentation truly memorable, not just competent? Let's revisit humor for a second. We talked about using it effectively right at the start, but how can you weave it in throughout the presentation without it feeling forced?
Yeah. Humor, when done right, can absolutely elevate a presentation beyond just delivering information. It livens things up. It creates a really powerful connection with the audience. It shows you're comfortable and in charge. The key criteria we mentioned for the intro still apply throughout. Whatever humor you use, make sure it's genuinely funny to you first, that you can deliver it confidently and naturally, that it's definitely non-offensive and appropriate for the context, and that your specific audience will likely understand and appreciate it.
So, know your audience is key for humor too.
Crucial. Maybe jot down jokes or funny observations you hear that genuinely fit your topic and personality. Deliver them verbally. Keep it light. Try to tailor your humor to the audience's demographics or shared experiences if you can. Tasteful, self-deprecating humor can work well, showing you don't take yourself too seriously. And if telling verbal jokes isn't your strong suit, and for many people, it isn't, don't force it. Consider alternatives. Maybe a relevant, lighthearted cartoon on a slide. A simple, unexpected magic trick, if appropriate. Or even just some unexpected physical action that evokes a smile or a positive reaction. Remember Juan's success using those visual newspaper headlines. Find what works for you.
Good advice. Don't try to be a stand-up comedian if you're not. Okay, what about questions? How can we use strategic questioning throughout the presentation, not just at the beginning or saving it all for the end Q&A?
Questions are incredibly versatile and shouldn't be confined just to the intro or outro. You can use them strategically at any point during the main body of your presentation. They're excellent tools for checking understanding as you go. Does that make sense so far? You can use them to extend the learning. Based on what we just discussed, how might you apply this in situation X? They can even help diffuse potentially difficult situations or manage a challenging participant. That's an interesting perspective. What do others think? They're also great for filling natural pauses while you gather your thoughts, or simply for gauging the mood and energy level in the room. How's everyone feeling about this section? Just continue to employ those open, clarifying, or closed questions depending on your immediate need at that moment. It keeps the audience actively involved and thinking with you, not just listening to you.
Makes sense. Keeps it dynamic.
Yeah.
But what happens if the discussion, maybe prompted by one of your questions, starts to veer off track? How do you keep things productive and focused while still encouraging participation and not making anyone feel shut down?
That's a common challenge, definitely. One effective technique is to structure your discussions or interactive segments around specific learning exercises or predefined questions. That provides a natural framework. If a remark or question comes up that is genuinely off topic, or perhaps too complex to address adequately in the moment without derailing things, use the parking lot technique.
Parking lot.
Yeah. You acknowledge the participant's comment or question, validate its importance, that's a really interesting point question, make a quick note of it on a flip chart or whiteboard labeled parking lot, and then politely explain that in the interest of time and staying focused on the current objective, you'll revisit it later, perhaps during the Q&A or wrap up for closure. This approach validates the participant and ensures their point isn't lost, but it allows you to maintain control of the session's flow without shutting them down abruptly.
That sounds like a very diplomatic way to handle tangents. Okay, finally, let's talk specifically about dealing with questions during the formal QA session, often held at the end. Any specific guidance there?
Yes, the Q&A is crucial for clarification and engagement, but it needs managing. First, remember that as the presenter, you generally control the duration. Let the audience know upfront how much time is allocated for questions. In larger rooms, it's essential to repeat the question clearly before you answer it. This ensures everyone heard it, especially if it came from the front, and it also gives you a brief moment to formulate your answer.
Good tip. What if? Silence. Crickets. No one asks anything.
Ugh, the dreaded silence. It happens. Be prepared for it. Have one or two pre-planned questions ready yourself to get the ball rolling. You could ask something open-ended like, okay, based on everything we've discussed, what questions do you have right now? Or perhaps, what was the most surprising thing you heard today?
If a question is phrased negatively or critically, try to subtly restate it in a more positive or neutral way before answering. For instance, instead of directly addressing why has staff absenteeism increased so dramatically, you might rephrase it as, that's a great question about engagement. Let's explore some factors related to absenteeism and what we might be able to do. It just reframes it constructively.
Nice technique. Any other Q&A tips? One more. Don't feel you have to be the sole expert answering every single question, especially if you know there's relevant experience within the audience itself. Don't hesitate to sometimes redirect a question to other participants. You could say, that's an excellent question about managing remote teams. I know Sarah has some recent experience with that. Sarah, would you mind sharing your perspective? This leverages the collective wisdom in the room, makes participants feel valued, and keeps everyone engaged. It turns the Q&A into more of a group discussion, facilitated by you.
Fantastic insights. It seems managing the Q&A well is almost as important as the presentation itself.
It really is. It's often the last impression you leave, so ending it confidently and effectively is key. And I guess, ultimately, a truly impactful presentation. It isn't just about delivering information clearly, is it? It's really about trying to transform the room in some small way. It's about inviting genuine engagement, sparking curiosity, and leaving your audience not just informed, but hopefully genuinely inspired to act differently or think differently. It's about creating a lasting impression that goes far beyond just the data points or the bullet points on a slide.
That's a powerful thought to end on. It's about connection and transformation, not just transmission. We really hope this deep dive into the art and science of presentation skills empowers you, our listeners, to step up to that stage or into that next meeting with renewed confidence and much more impactful clarity. If you found this deep dive valuable, please do like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives coming your way soon. Thank you so much for learning with us today, and we really look forward to the next time we can take a deep dive into your sources.